to get started. So welcome everybody to your first pre-call for culture transportation culture transformation practitioner certification. The pre-calls are designed to help you come into the room with a basic understanding of the framework. What I don't want you to do is think you have to know it all. We really work through it again, and we embody it. And what I have learned over the past is that these calls really help people come into the room more locked and loaded. And we've done it. This is our 13th, I think, Carson, our 13th certification. Anyway, it doesn't. He's not talking because there's noise in his background. But we've done this quite a bit to know that this seems to be the best format. Although everyone has busy lives, those of you watching later, hi, we missed you. Today is an introductory call, and it'll take between 60 and 90 minutes. And I'm going to tell you what's coming next week and how to prepare for the live training. As I'm sure you've all noticed already, there are a lot of emails that come out. We apologize in advance for that. I'm just going to mute, not that you're noisy, Michael. I'm just going to mute everyone. Oh, there's Isabella. Not that, I can't remember what I was saying. What was I saying? My goodness.
You're saying there's lots of emails.
Oh yeah, there's lots of emails. Yes, thanks. Got my back again. And we do apologize, and that won't change. We used to send everything in one email and then have to have 20 conversations with people. So we do it piece by piece. So I'm going to tell you what's coming this week, and then next week I'm going to tell you what's coming next week, and we'll go from there. So again, welcome everybody, and those of you watching later. I'm going to give you the quick and dirty on the Barrett Value Center. And again, the point is to save time for this kind of blah, blah, blah work that is super important. It is super important, I get it, but to give us more time to integrate and learn. And then as you all know, and if you don't know, you'll know now, that we do have 3 follow-up calls just for this cohort. And we have 100 people who we've certified in the last couple of years. Then you'll be invited into that community call, that monthly call. And that's how we keep in touch as a community. So you will also notice, we're going to do introductions of everybody in a moment, but you'll notice that you'll learn that some people here are already certified. Some people come back for another round. They failed and they have to come back. I'm kidding. They did not fail. Some have done an online and want more experience, and others just like to come back and reintegrate the learning. So that's that. Isabella, good to see you online. We are in the same city right now, as you know. Anyway, welcome. So to get started, a couple of details. The first thing is the date change next week. I apologize for that. The Monday call is moved to Tuesday, and just couldn't be helped. So I just want to give you a heads up on that. Carson had already sent an email about that. And so today our plan is to have a welcome you all. I just did that. You're welcome. Some introductions and the course overview, and then we're going to talk about the post training preparation, what we want you to have in the pipeline if possible to launch into right after the certification. We stay with you. We are super supportive. We have a really great team here, and we want to get you using your tools. So this is your team. Those of you who don't know us, I think people pretty much know who we are. But I'm Kathleen, and I live in Salmon Arm, British Columbia. And Carson is in the back end, and he's the one who does actually all the work. I get to stand up and do the teaching, but he does all the back end stuff, and he's sharing some super cool stuff online that you're all going to get access to when you certify anyway. But he helps, gives ideas about list building and how to promote it, and we do a lot of we give you a lot of support on how to make this, really integral to your coaching practice and consulting practice. For me personally, a little bit about, well, I'll tell you, Carson, he won't introduce himself because he's offline, but he has a degree in neuroscience. Many of you will figure out very soon and very shortly that he's actually my son. He's my oldest son. I have 3 kids, Carson. I have Reed, who lives with Carson, and his beautiful, wonderful girlfriend, Alana. And I have a daughter who is 14 going on 15, Kennedy. And she may appear in the room during our live training week. She likes to take pictures. She's our photographer. So that's the team. A little bit more about me for those of you who don't know. Most of my work is in leadership development, using values as a metric to measure and manage culture. And I've been working in this field for 25 years, but really zeroed in on values and leadership in about 2011-12. In 2009, I did a master's degree and was introduced to values, and it just changed everything for me. Another part of my business, many of you come from this other part of my business, is I work with Jack Canfield, and I have been working with Jack for 10 years. I've just been designing and teaching in his Train the Trainer program, and we just did a flagship Massively Human course a couple months ago in Las Vegas. It was a 3-day, and that course was built around these tools. His tools, of course, I mean, he's a master, but it was all focused around the individual values assessment, and it gave a good play on how to use that. We're going to share some of that stuff with you. Now, a couple of things just before the live training. Everybody has done their individual values assessment. Yay, thank you. It's so much easier for us when you do it as they come. There's no catch up. So thanks everybody for doing that. The next email that's coming this week is you're going to choose between an individual development report or a leadership development report. Now, all through this call, if you have a question, just unmute yourself and ask the question. This isn't formal. It's supposed to be engaging. I can talk for hours. So the individual development report or the leadership development report, Carson is sending you an email about the distinction between the two. So part of your certification, you will get to use the Barrett Value Center 360 tools. And so in order to know how to use them, first, you're going to experience them. So these are really important that you get, you send out to at least 30 people to give you feedback. And trust me, people don't do it. So the more people you can ask, the better. We need or want a minimum of 15 responses. Some people have done it with less, and it's fine. Essentially, we want to give you the experience of understanding what it's like to be assessed that way, as well as how to assess someone else. So the more responses, the deeper the content. And again, Carson will send you an email, and it will give you all the information about which one to choose and how to choose it. And we've had as few as, I think I said 6 or 7 responses, and as many as 60. So the more, the better. It's super rich, the data that you get. So that's what's coming next. And next week also, you're going to be doing, for the call, a personal values assessment. Many of you have done those with me on previous calls, or if you were in Train the Trainer, you've experienced it live. It never gets old. I think even Victoria could, hi Glenn, Victoria could comment on that or add to that she's been on many of my webinars as well as done the PVA so many times. And so you'll want to be on that call, but if not, you'll get the video. That's what we're doing next week. It takes like 5 minutes maximum to do. So a couple of deliverables for our next call. Now, what have I got on the next? I duplicated the slide. That's good. Okay. So what we'd like to do first is have an opportunity to meet who's in the class so far. We will have about 20 bodies in the room. Some people couldn't make this call. I think we have 12 or 14 new students. And then people come back to repeat, to refresh. And that is not required. You have everything you need when you walk out the door. And some people have certified online and they're coming to get the live experience. So you'll meet people who are certified, and some junkies like Colleen. This will be her second time, Victoria, her second time, and then a few other people are coming, which is super exciting because they get to take a little more of a leadership role in the room. So that's that. What I'd like to hear from you is, so everyone could get to know you, your name, where you're from, something about your life you'd like to share. It's up to you. The area of focus that you have with the work you want to do with this. If you don't have a focus, it's okay. You don't have to have one. And how do you intend to use it? And this question is designed if someone says, oh, I really want to work in schools, or I really want to work in government or nonprofit. We're going to make a note of that because there's different industry specific information that we could send your way just to get more background on that industry. So it's good for us to know. Many are really interested in the corporate coaching and consulting, most people that come through this, but that's what I would like. And so what I will do is I will start by calling on people randomly in order on my screen. And so I'll start with you, Michael, and tell us about that beautiful background. Oh, okay, there you go.
So this is my Kelowna vision board. Got the little wine country up here on my green screen. And I actually live in Sarasota, Florida, and been here for, for 4 years now, I guess. And lived in New England for 21 years before that. And I live here with my husband, Sal. We've been together for 30 years and legally married 4 years on the 4th of July. My area of focus, I started in corporate training in 1990-ish, 92 maybe, and went off and did lots of fun things and started several small businesses and was drawn to go back into training. Oh no, I'm breaking up. And so that put me into doing training in a healthcare environment, in very toxic healthcare environments. So, and a friend referred me to Train the Trainer Live, which I did 5 years ago. And what I've discovered in that journey through all the work that many of you have done as well, through Train the Trainer work and being on that assisting team and becoming a master RIM facilitator and now a RIM trainer, I feel like I have two legs of the stool with the success principles and the deep emotional processing component. And I feel like this cultural transformation tool is really the third leg of my stool. And I would love to go back into working with higher level leaders that have a bigger impact in the world. And I think this is the pathway. I feel like I don't know exactly why or what that looks like. I just have a sense, and I just take the next step in the direction of that sense. It's always worked for me so far. So I'm going to keep doing that. Looking forward to stepping into it and meeting you all and playing together.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, Michael and I met a few years ago and have a lot of synergy, and I've been waiting for him to take this because our backgrounds are very similar. So you're going to really, this is really going to work for you. So cool. Thank you. Lisa. Oh, I will unmute you. I'll do it for you. Hold on. My mouse is there. I got it.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, I'm Lisa Gato. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I spent many years in sales and sales leadership in the healthcare and health insurance world. And in 2017, I decided to take a package. They offered me a new position or a year package, so I decided it was a good time to shake up my life. And I rented an apartment in Tuscany, and I lived there for 3 months. And then I also was recently certified with the Train the Trainer program, the live Train the Trainer program, and also recently certified as a coach from the New Ventures West organization. And I was looking to, as Michael said, I guess, fill in the third leg here, because I was looking for a way to kind of take everything I learned and my experience and open some doors in the corporate world. A lot of my contacts from my old world are VPs of HR and benefits. So it seems like it would be a great way to merge my work experience with my new training and really make things happen. So I'm really looking forward to working with everybody. And I'm hoping my area of focus will be the corporate world, although right now I do have some individual coaching clients. And from talking to Kathleen and learning more about this tool, I can see I can use it in both worlds. So I'm really excited about this.
Great, thanks. Yeah, actually, I'm going to be certifying through George Washington University in DC. They're offering a coaching program, a certification, and they've asked me to come in and be a guest lecturer to certify people in this tool, because I've taught with them for a few years and they see the value. So it's great for coaching, great for consulting. Good to have you, Lisa. Troy, you're next. I've unmuted you.
All right. It's good to be here. My name is Troy Dunlap. I'm speaking to you from Minneapolis, Minnesota, about a mile from downtown that way. Something about my life is I am at a point of pure freedom. So it's basically choosing what I want to do at this point, without going into details and boring you. And this is what I consider the most valuable thing I could do in my life, is working with people in cultures. My background is finance. So I did the whole CPA thing. I got a master's in organizational psych, which I never put to use. I told Kathleen earlier, I wish I had found her a long time ago, because this is basically everything that connects. Why I think this is so valuable is just, for me, it connects just my own philosophy, my spirituality piece, and the practical world. It's like the linchpin that explains it all. It's simple, it's powerful. I've read Richard Baird's books for the last 10 years. So it just resonates with me, the material. My area of focus, I just spoke to that. And then how do I intend to use this certification? It's a great question. I look at financials different. So to me, I had an experience with a group of young adults. They had learning disabilities, and we just took them on trips. And there was something that happened magically in that experience that made me think, this is it. It showed me what work is supposed to be like for us. Unfortunately, I haven't experienced it in the working world, and I've worked at all different levels, from 2 Fortune 500s to at about a $100 million company now, to I've done books on the side for some friends, like 5 million-ish. So it's like at all these different levels, it is different cultures, and it's just a different experience, but none of them have reached what I think work should be. Maybe this is a pathway to help share some knowledge around this, to help build high performance cultures, for the whole point of just the experience of experiencing excellence and just extraordinary. It's what I think work should be. So how that looks in practical form, I don't have a clue. Not a clue. So I'm working on it. Good. So one of my goals, Kathleen, was to try to visualize that and put it on paper, what my mission vision is, before I get there.
Okay.
So that's kind of abnormal. I see myself working with leadership teams. Especially like this level of like the $100 million companies. I think it's still community enough. Whereas the corporate world, the Fortune 500 is just more cutthroat more. And I want to work with entrepreneurs who are just doing, so I have that leadership thing going, and then I want to work with teams, getting to high performance teams. And then I want to work with just unique entrepreneurs who are just doing just phenomenal things. And not so much about size, it's just about their mission and their idea of how they want to experience life through work as an expression of who they are. So I want to work with that segment as well. I wish I could work. I have a limiting belief in my head that you can't work full time with these people. So that's kind of where the corporate end of it is. Plus, I want to do something about corporate life. That's where it needs the most help, in my opinion.
I would agree. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Thanks, Troy.
Sure.
And Troy did our 8-week Living Full Spectrum online course. So that's how we came together here. So it was great. Isabella, who are you? Oh, I will unmute you. I'll do it. There you go.
All right. Can you guys see me okay? Because I can't see myself. And I'm walking around the house looking for the best signal, because all of a sudden I start losing you guys. But I'm Isabella Gasparini, and I live in Calgary. I've been here for about 30 years and met Kathleen about 5 years ago from the other side of probably of where most of you have worked. being the HR person in an organization over the last 15 years, and fell in love. It's not a matter of falling in love with values-based, but certainly it just resonated. It 100%. Kathleen has been an absolute, and what she teaches and how she teaches has been an absolute catalyst in my life for, it's not even 360 degrees, because it's 360 in the vortex of, I don't know, 10 dimensions, and it happens every day. There's not one day in my life that something that Kathleen brought to me doesn't come up. And I hear Kathleen's voice going, how does that show up in your life? And how else does that show up in your life? And for the ones that have been there with Kathleen know exactly what I mean. But I am, to resonate some of what some of you has actually mentioned, I'm in a time of my life, it's been 12 months, actually, a year since I left my last job, and been in the corporate world, and was allowing my soul to be sucked out of my body, and have done a lot of going within. And right now there's a huge amount of clarity that the alignment of values, and that is what I want to be a consultant advisor, working with organizations, particularly love startup type of environments, but really becoming an HR disruptor, so to speak, workforce disruptor, working with millennials and Gen Z that absolutely love the new generation. They are here to save this world. And right now it's still very difficult for them. I want to be a bit of that buffer and a translator. We'll be looking at, my new mantra is allow and release the how. You know how we are trying to figure out how things are going to happen. It's been transformational for me. I am so excited for this to come at the end of the month, and that will be my area of focus, is what's going to come. I do want to work globally. I want to work internationally. I speak a couple of languages and have also ease of travel. That's a great phase of my life as well. And the certification is really to get, because I have worked on the other end with Kathleen in an organization that brings us so much joy and understanding. It's really sort of a lab opportunity to exercise what we learn and we get certified on. And so it's building from that, from a perspective of that I've been on the other side. I could actually pinpoint all the way to the behavior modifications that, needs to happen. So I'm going to leverage that. And yes, it's a rebirth. Phoenix.
My longest term client Isabella worked for, so she knows.
Yes.
I feel like that was the greatest testimonial ever.
We should have recorded.
Thanks for never writing that down.
Actually, anytime, let's do it. I will have better hair day though.
All right. Thanks, Isabella. Victoria, who are you and what are you doing here?
I am Victoria and I live in Washington State. Something about myself I'd like to share. This is the year that I'm stopping getting all of the letters after my name and start doing something with them. I always waited as like, I get one more degree, I get one more certification, I get one more of this, one more of that, but not doing things. But now I'm doing things. And it's scary, but we're going forward. Area of focus is I want to get clear by the end of our certification in June. I have some ideas, but I'm not clear as to where I want to go with that. But I know that I want to use my certification in my coaching and consulting. I want to work with women who are in the same situation that I have been in, as well as leaders and entrepreneurs. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Victoria's an accountant, owns an accounting firm, right? So, yeah. Great, thanks. Pam?
Hello, so I'm Pam Driscoll. I live in Marblehead, Massachusetts, which is just north of Boston, right on the water. And which brings me to something I'd like to share is that I used to have a sailboat. I sold it a couple of summers ago, and I was using actually Michael's RIM virtual master vision board exercise. And one of the things I was putting on that virtual vision board was being on a boat again. and how enjoyable that is, and finding more relationships and friends as well. And as a result, without any effort whatsoever, I got invited this week to be on a sailing crew for a race boat here in Marblehead, and went out on a voyage with the captain, and I definitely passed the test, so that was good. And then he invited me to help him transport a yacht from Maine to Nantucket this summer. So I said, yeah, I guess I could do that. So that was pretty fun and amazing, and just fun to have that kind of experience in my life again. Also just recently became a grandmother, so that's pretty cool too. I love that. My area of focus, so I just left corporate at the end of December. I have worked as a software engineer for decades, mostly as a database architect. So I'm very data driven. So I was very interested in what these tools could allow me to take into an organization where there's a way to measure and manage based on the data, based on the numbers. And you know, and I'm a transformational coach now, that's what I'm doing now. And you know, the people I coach mostly are either women entrepreneurs, so people who've left corporate and or people who are so burned out they don't know what's next. And burnout, I have found, like, you know, one of the things that really contributes to that is when your values are really out of alignment with the corporation, but you're working like, you know, as if your life depended on it and you're not getting anything back. So this just I was so intrigued by what this could offer in terms of being able to have an impact in corporations, especially in tech, and in nonprofit, because I've worked in both of those areas. But to be able to really make a difference in the culture so that leadership actually is delivering what they say their culture is, or what they hope their culture is to their employees. And I've seen firsthand what it does for retention and just creating chaos because of that for the corporations, because they can't keep good people long enough to really develop and do what they want to do. And so, yeah, I'm just really super excited and open to seeing what comes next as well, and really happy to be part of this.
Awesome. Good to have you. I didn't know about the sailing part of things. So welcome, Pam.
And I didn't know about the software development. I like that.
Colleen.
Oh, okay. I'm Colleen Grady. I am from Lethbridge, Alberta. I used to be in human resources, and I've worked in contract negotiations, and I'm actually retired. So this last year, I've been spending it, I would say, learning. And I've done this course, so I am repeating it. And then I did Train the Trainer online in 90 days. I also then went on the Jack Canfield cruise, where we had learning and fun. And I did the full spectrum living course with Kathleen. And so I don't know what's going to happen. My business cards say that I'm a consultant. So I'm actually Carson's aunt and Kathleen's sister.
Yeah. And a funny story about Colleen was she's just trying to figure out what to do next. I said, why don't you just come to this training? Well, I don't know anything. I don't know what to do. And I'll be darned if she wasn't the first graduate of her class to get a client. She got a client right away. It's like, okay, whatever. So anyway, it's good to have you back. Stephen. Oh, hold on. Let me. I'm minding your business for you. I'll let you unmute yourself.
All right, there we go. My name is Steve Welling. I'm from Washington State as well. I'm probably 40 or 50 miles southwest of Seattle. And what that means is I'm across the Sound and on the peninsula. We get to raise clams and oysters here on our property. That's always interesting for people to hear. I've been married for many years, 43 years, 6 grandchildren, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty normal. I have spent the majority of my adult life working as a clergyman. I pastored churches for 23 years. The last 13 years, I've been an area minister, which means that I just oversee the cooperative work of about 100 churches in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and Alaska. And I'm finishing that up. I hope to be done with this role by the end of the year, typically. And so my area of focus actually these days, just in terms of these days, is to finish well. And I've been working hard at that. How I intend to use the certification, I'm really interested in seeing if it's something that can be used in faith communities, since that's what I've been spending time with. I kind of have this 3 circles in my life that I work in that overlap, kind of that diagram where the 3 circles overlap. And my 3 circles have been spiritual formation, leadership development, and personal development. And so I kind of see this as being another tool to be able to use in whatever settings that I can fit myself into. And probably faith communities certainly to start, and leadership development. That's my hope.
That's awesome. I think you're going to find this would really land well in the faith communities.
I think from what I've seen, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And when you said that you've been married 43 years and 6 grandkids, pretty normal. That's not normal. That's remarkable.
Oh, is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I've gotten used to it, so I can't get out now. So.
Well, yeah, nicely done. Good to see you, Glenn. I've unmuted you.
Okay. I'm Glenn Boudreau. I'm in Dallas, Texas. I own an interior design firm. I travel around doing seminars for designers and architects. I teach at the college level here, and as of this semester, I am now the chair of the department.
Oh, that's cool.
They sprung that on me this semester because the guy that was there left abruptly, and so I was the only one that they trusted to take it over. So I was like, "You okay?" And then this past weekend, I learned that if there is a zombie apocalypse, I could take care of myself because I know how to shoot a bow and arrow now. So that was kind of an interesting,
very cool
little sidestep kind of thing that we did. That was kind of fun this weekend. Area of focus, I'm kind of torn. I keep saying I want to go into the corporate structure of the companies that I've been that I know very well now, and then I'm still in the design world, and then I'm in the educational world, and so maybe I need to look at it like Steve says, is how those 3 circles converge. That was kind of a new, kind of maybe an insight moment there. So because I'm not sure, I know that I want to use the Barrett values thing because I think so many people don't really understand their values and how they relate to a company and to others that they work with, and how they actually operate. They don't really even sometimes operate according to their own values. So I think I'm just still kind of trying to work, really, do I really want to go into that corporate area, or do I want to stay within where I'm at, or still combine those 3 together? Because the corporate of the people that are corporate in the design industry, and the students within the design industry and the college level, and that could be a convergence there that I'm not looking at. So because I enjoy all 3 of them, and so I'm kind of trying to work through that at this point. So
cool.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Cool. And Carson, do you want to say anything?
Well, there's silence. I don't have much to say, but it's nice to hear more about people. That's all I have.
Okay, cool. All right. And I'm going to turn my video off only because it might drag on my Wi-Fi as I go through the slides, but speak up. Just interrupt, unmute yourself and interrupt. This is the point. Today's call is really about building a foundation and talking about what's coming and the Barrett Value Center. So we don't have to, it's not a waste of time, but put the time into that in class. So I'm going to move into the next piece as I move my little desk around here. All right. Oh, maybe not. Okay, so a few things just to talk a little bit about how we roll here at Massively Human. There's so many acronyms with this work, and we've created a guide, a handout for you that gives you the acronym and what it means and what the tool is, because you're going to get confused, and that's okay. So just get ready for confusion. I just unpacked IVAs with a new client across the street from here with in 4 hours, a really great interactive workshop. They were confused at the beginning and got it at the end, and that's just 4 hours. So imagine how deep you're going to dive in your time with us. We give you lots of support. We've talked about that before, but that's really what we do differently with our certification is we follow you along, we support you, and we want you to win and succeed. All of our monthly calls are recorded, and you can watch them at any time. So we do a lot of follow-up, and we put a little pressure on you, and you're going to feel the pressure a little bit today. I'm going to talk about what we're going to pressure you about. But as part of your certification, you get an individual values assessment and a small group assessment as part of your fees that you paid to use. And the sooner you can use that, the better. So we're really going to push you, and I'm going to talk about it at the end of the call and next week more specifically, because I'm going to walk through each of those tools next week so you can understand them, or I guess the week after. Anyway, but we want you to think about at least one person you can do an individual values assessment unpacking with right after the training while it's fresh. And if you can get a small group, and again, we'll make that clear, but we're going to push you a little bit to do that. The longer you leave it, the more further away you get from your learning. Great supportive community. We've made so many connections. We have people who have met at the trainings, which is why we want you to introduce yourselves here, that have ended up working together. It's pretty cool. I get a little bit jealous because I don't get to do that. Sometimes I've got to collaborate with people, but I see people working together and it's super fun, and jealous in a good way. And I can tell you, when I learned about these tools and began integrating them, they're integral to every touch point I have with a client now, because many of you heard me say values underpin everything that you do. So it is integral to all of my work, and I think you're all going to find your sweet spot with the work. And here's the thing about our company is you don't have to know exactly what you're going to do with it. We just wanted to know what industries, basically the people on the call, were thinking about, and new things emerge. Like I never would have done my 8-week online course. I never would have done a course in Vegas. I was solely corporate, and now we have all kinds of different branches to our company, mainly because Carson came along, and he's a millennial who gets bored easily and needs change. So someone's typing. Carson, is that you?
No, it's not, but I will.
Okay. So a little bit about the creator. Some of you have said you've read Richard's book. It's okay. You don't have to have read it. That's why we do the pre-calls. We get you up to speed. And anyway, a little bit about Richard. He worked at the World Bank, and he, by trade, is a engineer. And what he did is he used to see how values impact the workplace. And he designed these tools to measure individual leadership capacity, teams, organizations, and nations, their consciousness. How this tool works, I'm going to explain a little bit more. Many of you have already been introduced to it, but his work is robust, and it's all around the world. And when we say nations, he's done 50 national values assessments where Canada just completed their national values assessment, the second one that we did. We talk a little bit about the global stuff, not a lot, but there's a lot of information on the Barrett Value Center site for you.
Can I say something? I just wanted to say that he didn't do this survey. People in the community did it, which is cool because even somebody in our community was involved in the Canadian national values assessment. So two, Tiz and Stephen. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Two. Yeah. So they were involved in that project. So it's a cool community. Get connected.
just to let you know the mission, vision, and values of the Barrett Value Center, because I think it's important to know who they are. They have what's called an internal vision and mission and an external vision and mission. And you're going to learn more about this, but their internal vision and mission is with their partners to be a global resource for the evolution of human consciousness. And how that shows up in the world and society is to create a values-driven society. And their internal mission with our partners, their partners, I happen to be a partner and you're a partner, is to build a worldwide network of change agents committed to culture transformation. And how that shows up in society is to support leaders in building values-driven organizations. And the values that drive the Barrett Value Center are employee fulfillment, shared vision for the internal and external is commitment and customer satisfaction. And where we land is we're here. We're the partners. I'm considered a training partner with the Barrett Value Center because I am licensed, so to speak, to certify people to use these tools. And I think there's 50 of us, and there's 2 in North America that can certify people as practitioners. This is the highest level of certification. I'm one, and there's another one in Oregon. And there's 1 who can certify in what's called foundations, and that's my colleague from Royal Roads University, Marilyn Taylor in Victoria. So, but the rest are scattered around the world, and there's about 6,000 or 7,000, I don't know the exact number, I think it's gone up quite a bit, of certified users of the tools. Some are internal to organizations, and many are consultants like you. And what Richard did is he identified that values are present in every stage of psychological development. It's really grounded in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which we will go through more in the training. And values choices can give an indication of what stage of development an individual, team, or organization is operating from. It was profound today. These folks who knew nothing about the tool, they completed their surveys. They came in and I helped them navigate, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is so true. So I love, that makes me feel so good when it works every time. Help to identify our basic needs and our growth needs, and help us see where we might be holding ourselves back, both individually and organizationally. And now it's based on a holarchy model, which is the sort of the nesting of, starts with the me, and then it expands out to family and team, how this work works. Then we look at organizations, we look at community and nation. And the holarchy model means that everything is independent, however, depends on each other for functioning. Like we need to, in module 1, we focus on working with values, and it's leading self part 1. And then we don't focus on family, but family is just part of the holarchy model that they use. But it's leading self and then creating common ground. When we start to look at, okay, if we understand the individual, we then look at the team and organization. And we begin to then look at module 6 moves into common good, bigger surveys and leadership. And we pull it all together on the last day, sort of. We leave some pieces out on the last day because your brain is super full, and then we follow it up with a call to close off the how do you connect with the Barrett Value Center, more of the technical stuff. And then national. So each is dependent on the next, just to give you an idea of how the work works. And so when we think about values, what does values driven mean? Now, I feel that every organization is values driven, and Richard uses the expression to create values driven organizations. And I differ on that with him. And I always tell you when I have a different thought. And the reason why I see it differently is I think everything is values driven, but what we want to create is full spectrum, consciously designed leadership in organizations and humans. So it's what does values driven mean? That everyday decisions reflect our values and serve a purpose. Values with this model can be positive, and they build connection, and they can also be potentially limiting. They're fear-driven values that create separation and mistrust if overused. And we're going to learn more about that in a little bit. For some of you, it's a review. For others, this is new information. Why do values get more attention today? It's because of the evolution of human consciousness. We can now watch, actually, we can see evolution before our eyes because human evolution is what we're able to see. The flowering of democracy, a need for resilience, goodwill, and connection, a navigation of increased complexity, and a need for conscious ethical business. There's a shift about, I'm sure many of you noticed, and I don't know if you follow politics, we won't go there, don't worry. But there really is a lot of talk about values and how our values connect us, our beliefs can divide us. However, values are beliefs with a punch. So there's a little distinction that we'll work on making more clear for you in the training. And why does this matter in organizations? It matters because of engagement. And we hear a lot of talk about engagement, and there's some information. This is the Towers-Watson Global Workforce Study in 2016. The reason why I use this one in our training is because it's a global study. It's not specific to Canada, the US, and we've had many people come to this training from international, and I really like this global workforce study. And what they've identified in 16 is that 40% of the workplace is engaged. This, for those of you in organizations, this might not be surprising or news. For me, it's quite interesting, and when I share this stat with my clients, they're astonished and not surprised. So we have 24% disengaged, 19% unsupported, and 17% detached. So what that means is we have about 60% of the workforce that are, I call them dead man walking, or I quit, but I forgot to tell you. These are the folks that are in the organization. The detached folks are the people in the organization and not looking for work. These folks, disengaged and unsupported, we could re-engage them. And the theory is that if they can live their values at work, then their engagement levels will go up. So how do we increase engagement? This is the key to this tool. And how do we create conditions that engender higher levels of engagement? And it's values alignment is the first criteria. And that is, I can live my values at work. And I'm going to keep saying this throughout our call because I don't want you to think you have to remember any of this. It's hammered in so much you'll get it. I just want you to come into the training hot. Values alignment. I live my values at work. If I can live 4 or more of my personal values in my day-to-day work, then I am more engaged. It increases engagement. And I'm trying to think of who talked about value alignment, lack of alignment. Can't see in my notes, can't remember. But it talked about going, it was, I can't remember who it was. Hold on. I have to close this loop in my brain. It was Pam, living out of alignment. If I can live 4 or more of my values at work, we have personal alignment. The second values alignment, the second one is mission and vision alignment. If what I'm doing every day, I'm connected, it's connected to a purpose, and I feel the organization is on track. Am I doing every day what I think we should be doing? And this tool measures that in the broader sense. And when we look at the deeper, richer tools, the cultural values assessments, this will make a lot of sense to you. Isabel is very familiar with this because she worked with me on a project for 5 years using this tool in her company. And then the personal alignment is with the leadership. The leaders need to walk the talk. If there's a tiny crack on the top within the executive team, it is the Grand Canyon on the front line. The leaders set the culture. Culture is set by the leadership values, beliefs, and behaviors, and the legacy of past leaders, hands down 100% of the time. That's why any initiative in organizations, I really want to start with the leadership, because that, if you sort of empower people to see themselves in their own evolution and their own possibility, and they're hit up against a leadership team that doesn't support it, that's how we lose engagement. And the final one, this is the big one, also is building the structural alignment, the systems to support the espoused values. We need a system to hold, for example, if you want to have a collaborative compensation package on a sales team, you can't have competitive sales numbers. That'll make more sense, Lisa. That might make sense to you as well. Now, when looked at, this is sort of justification for this work. When we look at the top 40 best companies to work for in the USA, when we look at this, I like this graph, and even though Carson has a more recent graph, these are the slides we're supposed to share with you from the Bear Value Center. And Carson also has been super creative and made more stats and more recent stats and slides that we share with you as well, because we want you to have everything in your toolkit to make it work for you. But when you look at this, the red line are the best companies to work for, and the blue are the S&P 500. So when you look at back in 2008-9, what happened? Well, I'll answer that question. We had a recession, and all the revenues went down. But the best places to work recovered and exceeded, and the S&P 500 stayed steady. And the argument here is that if I can live my values at work, and culture is focused on, culture is your new competitive advantage. So that's the high level interpretation of this slide. But what I think is even more magical and amazing is look at the time frame it took for recovery. Because they knew who they were clear on their values, they could regroup and recover quicker than the S&P 500. And that applies individually and organizationally. Individually, if I know who I am, when something shifts in my life, if I lose my job, if I change jobs, if I lose my marriage or someone dies, if I know who I am, I can be thrown off my game, but I can be regrounded more quickly if I'm very clear on my core values. And also recognizing core values and understanding are the way those values are being lived or interpreted, are my beliefs around that value still serving me? And the last slide I want to show you that has to do with the corporate world, don't worry, those of you who want to use this as a coach and even a personal life coach, it all applies. But this is some remarkable data. And this is the business case that we make when I present to a client this work. This is the business case I use, because most people in the corporate world, I don't know if you've heard of the book Good to Great down here. Good to Great was the benchmark for great. It's one of the top selling books in the world. And it's a leadership book that teaches, that really talked about what makes a great organization. And I want you to notice that we have the S&P 500 in the yellow, the Good to Great in orange, and this new bit called Firms of Endearment in red. And Carson, can you make a note that we'll send the Firms of Endearment abstract? I forgot to do that. Just make a note of that. And, thank you. This piece of work, I highly recommend you own this book if you are wanting to work in culture. Firms of Endearment is a book that happened by accident. It was initially being written as a book on marketing, and what they discovered when they studied certain companies, there was this remarkable group of companies that outperformed the Good to Great companies. See, this is Good to Great, and this is the Firms of Endearment. So, and what they also looked at is,
I will email it as well, so don't worry, but it is in the chat if you want it sooner.
Oh, good. Thanks, Carson. Awesome. When we look at, after 3 years, there isn't a whole lot of difference between the Good to Greats and the Firms of Endearment. They're neck and neck. After 5 years, there's the spread is beginning, but look after 10 years, the Good to Greats outperform the Firms of Endearment, outperform the Good to Greats 10-1. And why I show this slide, and when I talk about it, I say that in culture transformation, speed is not a success factor. And sometimes you have to slow down to go fast. And that was a big message today with this new startup company I'm working with, is you have to slow down to go fast, because it takes time to build this capacity and commitment. So those are the slides that I walk through with a client, and how we demonstrate the business case. And we have a slide deck that I use that we share with you that shows the business case. And you can make your own. You don't have to use our slides. I've just done this presentation many times to many different companies. So we thought, well, let's shortcut it for you. So here's how our training looks together. And then I'm going to walk through the model, and then I'll open it up for questions, and that'll be it for today, because next week we're going to do the personal values assessment. Next week, yeah. So on day one, it's really about module 1 and 2. Like, we're really covering off module 1 in these pre-calls. It's basically laying the foundation for the Barrett Value Center and the training. And then we begin to look at leading self module 2. And we start to play with values and learn to place the values on the different levels of consciousness of development, stages of development, and how that applies to you. Because if you can see yourself in the data, in the survey, then you're able to take it to the higher level with the small group assessment and the larger cultural values assessment. So then the next day, on day 2, we finish off family, and then we expand to team, looking at small group assessments. How do we execute those in organizations? And then we move into day 3, we expand it to the larger surveys. So each day builds on the next. And then on day 3, which is Wednesday, what we want you to make sure you don't do is book anything Wednesday night. We will be ending a little bit early on Wednesday, and you'll be working with a partner where you'll be going through your Leadership 360 with a very clear guide how to walk through it. And so sometimes people go into the evening. That's completely up to you. You just make an agreement with your partner, but that's what's happening on day 3. So don't book a call with your family or a wine tour, Michael. That's not going to work on day 3. And then day 4, we put it all together. We bring all of what you've learned and ground it, and then you set some goals and action plans for so what, now what, and what's next, as well as I give you some broader context to the tool, how it's used on a broader scale. But by this day, you've kind of had enough of the blah, 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 and that's why we reinforce it in the follow-up calls. So before I go into unpacking the model, does anyone have any questions or anything right now? Are you? This is the blah,
you
blah.
Want to just talk about advanced while you're on schedule?
Oh yeah. Well, everyone's not going to advance. So, but we have I don't know what's happened to I'm glad you can't see what's happening to my screen. This is usual for me. So we also have the 5th day advanced. And what the 5th day is about is not, you are fully certified with the first 4 days. The 5th day is where we really drill down into, we call it pitches, plots, pricing, and pitches. And we boot camp some more plots, just reading them. And then we work on pitches, how to speak to it with more depth. And also how to price it. Like, people ask me oftentimes, how do I price it? How do I do this? How do I do that? And that's what we're doing in the 5th day. However, you have a lot of that information in all the information that we give you. So, but it's really good, practical, hands-on. The 5th day is really kind of further integration. So that's what we do. And that's something we added on. It is not part of you don't need it for the certification, but it's really useful to stay. I know there's a few of you who've already done that in the past. So now I'm going to give you some context now with the tool and give you the preview. And I know that many of you, the only person I'm wondering about is Steve. You've seen the model, right? Have you? I don't know if you...
I sat through the presentation online.
Perfect. Okay, good. Yeah. So you're familiar. Good. Okay, this should be review. Everybody has seen it then, so that's good. I love it. So again, to remind you, and again, I taught this today, and I still get new nuances, just so you know, with the questions people ask. It never gets old. So what is consciousness? For this model, consciousness is really awareness with a purpose. All right. And sometimes I use the word development instead of consciousness, depending on the client and how that word might land. So consciousness is one of the words that we use. And then the other one, our value, is obviously the word values. But some people, when asked to define what a value is, they're very different. Some call them virtues, some call them principles, all those kinds of things. So we like to set context for our purposes. Values really are beliefs with a punch. And you've bumped up against a value when something triggers you or when something inspires you. There's usually, if you go deep enough, there's a value underneath that's either being expressed or bumped up against. And so the Richard's definition, what he offers is values are the ideals that give significance to our lives. They're reflected through the priorities we choose and we act on consistently and repeatedly. And how I translate this to a group is I say our values show up in our behavior, not in our words. You can see what someone values by what they do. And that's where a lot of people experience that dissonance in their workplace of this is who we say we are, but this is who we really are. This work both helps us in our coaching and our corporate or large group work to help people recognize how alignment and walking the talk is so important. And I'm going to share some of the data in the session with this new company I'm working with because it's fresh, it's good, it's cool, it's super interesting. They're identifiable, measurable, and are experienced through our feelings and our imagination. I love this part of the definition because using this tool, we can measure and manage our own evolution and help others see themselves in their own evolution individually and organizationally. But also our values can pull us forward. Our beliefs can hold us back. You can put a group of clergy from a variety of faiths in a room, and if you ask them to agree on a set of beliefs, that is conceivably impossible. But if you ask to agree on a set of guiding values, that is possible. So our values go deeper. And to give a little more about that is values are a concept. And it's the context within which they're played out where our beliefs and our behaviors show up differently. So again, values are universal. And the situation and the expression are what makes it unique and different. For example, I have a value of family. My ex-husband has a value of family. And when we got divorced, his belief around family is husband and wife should stay together till death do you part. And otherwise your kids will be really messed up. And I had a different belief around that. My belief is that the form of our relationship is changing, but the function is the same. So he had to rejig his belief on value, or he would on family, or he would experience a lot of frustration. The context within which his family was being played out was different than he thought it should be. And that's with anything. Our beliefs are very contextual in the behaviors, but values are universal. With Richard's model, values can be positive or potentially limiting. And when positive values are values that connect us, potentially limiting values are those that have the potential to divide us. And the word potentially is so important. And it's funny, Isabella could really relate to this one with a company that she worked with. One of the values was cost reduction. That is a potentially limiting value. And people would say, well, cost reduction is important. And we'll say, yes, but at the stake of what? So there's up to a certain point, it serves you, but there's a potentially limiting factor if it's overused, for example, at the cost of safety. The potentially limiting value of being liked, it has the potential to be limiting if your value of being liked is is stronger than the need to engage in conflict resolution. So power, blame, and greed and status, we can see how those can be potentially limiting, but there's some that are a little tricky. But if they're played out too far, you can see how they can be limiting. So the next definition for context is what is culture? And culture really is the way things are done around here. And the culture of any organization, any group of individuals is a reflection of the values, beliefs, and behaviors of the leaders of the group or the legacy of past leaders 100% of the time. You know, it shows up as much as we don't want to be responsible. Those in leadership roles really set the tone. So a little bit more context here. And this is a great metaphor I use, and I'll give you an exercise around this that I find is a really great icebreaker after we finish the training. But our values, beliefs, and behaviors, our attitudes, and all that really are the roots to the tree. It's the underground. It's what we can't see. It's hard to hold on to it, but we know they're there. But the health of the roots determines the bounty above. So this is why this culture work is so important. We're nurturing, I call it nurturing the soil. We're gardeners. And what we want to do is get clarity on, you know, who are we? What are our core values? You know, this taproot is one of the core values. And we have some other roots, thicker roots. That's our core values. Who are we? And what are our beliefs around that? And then what we want to do is we want to link that to the strategy, the vision, the goals, the structures, and the systems and the results. So it's really relating to taking logic and reason, which is the greenery, and the roots are the spirit and emotion, and merging that into what's called a full spectrum organization, individual, leader, person, you know, mom who's looking to decide what to do with her life. So that's the blah, blah, blah part. That I want you all to know for our next session. So there's a couple more things that I want to share. Okay, I see. Got a note. So again, the model is based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's where Richard began. And it's we have what's called deficiency needs. And deficiency needs, we gain no individual sense of lasting satisfaction from being able to meet the needs, but a sense of anxiety if they're not met. And what that means is we have physiological needs, which food, air, and water. We are thirsty, we drink, we're not thirsty anymore, but we're going to get thirsty again. So those are our physiological needs, and that's what we mean by deficiency needs. We also have safety needs. We always need to pay attention to our safety, and be it emotional safety or physical safety. Essentially, I say this is we don't want to get eaten by the by a lion at the watering hole. We also have a need for love and belonging. And with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, these levels are foundational for someone to then have some sense of self-esteem that I'm unique and different within the context of my cultural conditioning, and self-actualization where we break free and find meaning and purpose. And these are our growth needs. They don't ever go away, but when we're connected from the inside out, that's when we don't give up. We stick to things. So the model, a little bit about the model, as many of you already know all of this, but Richard identified values present at every stage of development. He did not contribute at all to developmental psychology, but he did identify values that are present at each stage. The choices that you make or your clients make can give an indication of what stage of development you're operating from. It helps you identify your basic needs and your growth needs. These are your basic needs, level 1, 2, and 3, and these are your growth needs, level 5, 6, and 7. Level 4 is transformation, where we break through into our possibility. And it helps you see where you might be holding yourself back, where those potentially limiting values might be living. And when we talk about the model, when we look at the model, Barrett's 7 levels of consciousness, as I mentioned earlier, really map to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But there's some interesting nuances that we'll land on in the live training. Is level 1, 2, and 3 are really about self-interest. And this is where we live from our beliefs. Level 1, 2, and 3, our beliefs are formed from the outside in. It's our cultural conditioning. And our physical and emotional needs are met when we're building level 1, 2, and 3, and it's developmental. It's age related and stage related. And then at some point in our life, we do this thing called transformation. We're like, wait a minute, all of this stuff, is it true for me? And we begin to question, we individuate, we pull away from our cultural conditioning and say, who am I? And with that transformation stage, it's really grindy. And most individuals I work with in organizations are really in level 4 and 5. Level 5 is about internal cohesion, where you find, what's most important to you? Who am I? What are my core values? And once we land on level 5, we then say, well, how am I going to share this with the world? This is kind of your next step, Steve. You're in this stage of, I've done all this, but how can I take all my wisdom and translate that into a whole new iteration and share what I've learned? That's my story that I made up from what you shared. And I want to make a difference. And then level 7 is really service. And people 60 and above, if we were looking at ages and stages, generally speaking, their focus is really around service, level 7. And level 7 is not better than level 1. Level 1 is necessary. We always need to weed our garden and build our level 1, 2, and 3. And this is where we'll learn about where fulfillment lives and employee engagement really lives up in these levels. So overall, that's a very high level, quick and dirty of the model. And you will be so used to this by the time we're done. You're going to be able to recite this like nobody's business. So again, the last time I'll go through this for today is I want to show you how it matches the psychological stages. So I'd like you to look at the far right column. Level 1 is really about survival. It's about, do I have enough financial needs, safety, and health. Level 2 is about conforming relationships. Am I loved enough is the question that we ask ourselves. And level 3 is where we differentiate. It's about self-esteem, but it's about differentiating is about being unique and different within the context of our cultural upbringing. And then we individuate. Individuate is when we pull away and we question, what if all of this was wrong? Or we recommit to it. This is a very, as I said, it takes courage. It's a very difficult stage. It's where people who are doing lots of personal growth, reading, questioning, goal setting, accountability lives here. Individuating is not teenage rebellion. It's really asking that existential question, what's the meaning of all of this? And then we go into the higher levels of the model, which is self-actualizing, where level 5, we find who we are. We have internal cohesion. So inside we're connected. And then we share who we are with the world by integrating. And then level 7 is serving. And this connects, level 1, 2, and 3 is really the ego. And level 5, 6, and 7 is the soul. So that got me thinking with your circular diagram there, Steve, head, spiritual, personal development. The head part is the mental, the transformation. This is the spiritual piece of your work. And this is really the personal development. So the model really ties into what you said. And I like the circles. If you have a diagram of that, that would be cool to see if you're willing to share that. So again, with the basic model, where potentially limiting values only live in level 1, 2, and 3. And the questions that we ask ourselves with these levels are, do I have enough? Oh, this is backwards, Carson. These are new slides, new decks we just got from the Barrett Value Center because they have a whole new brand. Do you see how that's backwards, Carson? We better fix that. You see it? Level 3, 2, 1. Anyway. Okay, so level 1 is really about, do I have enough? Level 2 is, am I loved enough? Relationships. And level 3 is, am I enough? Self-esteem. And how do we know if someone's in operating from a level 5 or a level 3? Oh, maybe I'm going to leave that until when we see the personal values assessment. I think that's an advanced move. So if by any chance this is how you feel, you're completely on track. You feel slightly like, holy smokes, this is a lot. Everything is working. All right. So hold on a second here. I just want to pull the pictures back up. So what I would like to do before I wrap for this call is, and tell you what's happening next. The purpose of this was to really give you a foundation. Does anyone have any burning questions about that piece? Are you ready to just dive into it and learn more as we go? Glenn, try to stay awake. I know it's late. Oh, wait, it's later for Michael, actually. East Coasters. Any burning questions right now? Okay. It's like to get this part done with before we come in the room so we can jump right into it. So a couple of reminders. Everyone did their individual values assessment. I have to say this is the fastest it's ever been done by the group. Yay, bravo. Makes Carson's life easier. You will be receiving, what's printing? I don't know what that is. You'll receive your email about the leadership development report. Oh, we just talked about this, didn't we, Carson? You'll be receiving your notification this week about if you're going to do an IDR or an LDR. And that'll all make sense. There's a brief paragraph describing the difference in the two. Essentially, if you are a leader in an organization, you do the leadership development report. If you are not a leader or don't want to measure your leadership, you do an individual development report. Both are very deep and profound. You're going to ask you to send out to minimum 30 plus people. And I want you to send it to family, friends, people that don't like you, people you don't like, employees, past employees, colleagues, bosses, everyone you can send it to. Have courage, be brave, send it to all the people because you'll find that the data is so lovely that you'll be glad that you did, and you will regret that you didn't if you don't, because it's really great learning. So I'm going to talk more about this in the next couple of weeks, but thinking of a possible client to do with your assessments. And IVA, individual values assessment, I'm going to go through and unpack one of those next week, and a small group assessment. So after next week, you'll probably be able to
Glenn has a really good question. He
Okay.
If it's anonymous for people that you send it to, for them responding.
Oh yeah, it's anonymous. They can put their name in at the end and make a personal comment, or they can make an anonymous comment too. Takes about 25 minutes to do. You will do it first. You will assess yourself, and they will then do it. So you'll know what people are asked to do. That's a great question.
It is meant to be anonymous. Like that never asks for a name. When we say someone could say their name in a comment, it means they could say, "I really like you," from Bob. But it never asks for a name. It's meant to be anonymous.
Yeah. Okay. So thinking about a possible client to use that with, and the other option is a leadership development report, which I'm going to explain all this to you, but I just want you to start thinking about the very least one person you can do an individual values assessment with to really unpack it. I tell you, when I do an IVA with a client, I can get 4 to 6 coaching sessions out of it. It's quite profound. You can really unpack it. A leadership development report. I'm just wrapping one of my clients, and it's like a dozen sessions. It's very rich and very deep, and you can do a lot from it. And it gives people a really great view of themselves. So that's what's coming. And we would like you to start to think about that, at the very least, an individual to do an IVA. I've already told you that we moved next week's call to Tuesday. I apologize for that change, but I will be in an airplane. So I have to, I needed to change it. Next call, you will complete your personal values assessment, and Carson will send you the link to that. And the personal values assessment is how I get all of my clients in my funnel. I do that with them. And then this client that I'm working with today started out with a personal values assessment, and now I've done a full cultural values assessment with them. So this is the key to how I pull clients in to my work. And just a reminder, any of you who are interested in coming on the wine tour, we do have to give numbers. I was going to ask, I don't know if they can because it's the end of the day. I was going to ask if they can do it on Friday evening, but Carson says they don't pour in the evenings. But anyway, it is on the Saturday, and it'll be 4 of our favorite wineries. And it'll be fun. If you want to come, if you can come. I recognize staying an extra day is a hassle for some people, but if you happen to be hanging around, I think we have 5 people who have confirmed. So that's what I have for you today.
Michael asked if we have times. I don't have an exact time. I'm, because I know you said, I know your flight time. I feel like it's in the afternoon, right? Wine tours, you don't do that in the morning, I think.
Oh, no, we've done one at 11 before.
That's what I was saying. Sorry, 11 is afternoon-ish. So I was hoping, Michael, it would be 11, although that's not confirmed yet, but that is what I'm hoping for. And also, just so you know, if you were to fly out, I think your flight's like 4, you could just as easily get from like the wine tour to the airport easily. True?
Yeah. Yeah. And what, yeah. And
it's not like we're in a small place.
Yeah, it's not, you're not going that far. And we could, so you need to check in. You could check in early and then we'll figure it out, Michael. We'll figure it out. Yeah. So, and if you don't drink wine, if you don't drink, it doesn't matter. You can still come. It's fun. It's really fun. I won't be drinking because I'm cleansing for I'm going to a retreat in July that I have to be clean and sober for. So I'm, working on that. I've got my 1-day chip.
I do not have to be clean and sober.
Yeah. So I appreciate your time and attention today. And I like to get this blah, blah, blah over with so that when we come in the room, we can just get into the work. So that's the purpose of these calls. If you have any questions, just let us know, reach out. And many of you are familiar with this piece. And then I'm going to show you how we leverage the personal values assessment and how you understanding the PVA on yourself, how you can coach your clients with that. So that's what I have for you today. Does anyone have, great, blah, 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 questions of me before we go? Glenn.
Next Tuesday, it's at the same time that I teach. So are you unpacking the personal values assessment that we just did?
No, not the one you did online, a different one. The one you did already comes to class and you're going to use it then, but you've done it in Train the Trainer, Glenn.
Okay, so the same thing.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And anybody else, it's almost like a webinar of ours. Still good to come, but that's effectively just so you have context.
Yeah.
Okay. If there's no more questions, I'm going to do a quick recap. The email you're going to get from me is choosing between your 2 leadership 360 assessment choices. And so the first email is going to be pretty basic. It's just, do you want this LDR or do you want IDR? Because that makes, from that decision, I then create your special link. So if everybody on the call at least knows to respond to that as soon as you can, that would be great because it just gets the ball rolling. And that'll go out tomorrow morning. And then on the recording of this, which will go out tonight, the only thing we have attached is the Verbs of Endearment summary, which it's a good book if you want to buy it, but the summary is basically all that you should care about. And it's pretty much the foundation of why this work matters to organizations. So that's the only thing I have written down. So anything else?
Nope, that's great. And it's this work is so up. It is so up. This is how I closed this deal with the client I'm working with across the street because they're in a new industry. It's the Wild West in this industry. And I said, if you want to be standing in 5 years, how to differentiate yourself is to get clear on your culture and build your culture. And they're like, okay. So it's cool work. I'm thrilled that you're trusting us with your time and your money, and you will be very happy that you did. So thank you for your time. And those of you watching later, hello, and we'll give you time to introduce yourself next time if new people are on the call. And thank you. And reach out if you have questions. Just email me or Carson. Okay?
Thanks everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.